Hi, you've reached Tim and Gabrielle from Excel Talk. We're not able to come to the phone right now, but if you leave a message, we'll be sure to respond by playing your message on our live Excel Talk broadcast. Welcome, everyone. It is Wednesday, March 16th, and now we are live. This is our second time trying this. Sorry about that.
We had a quick rehearsal for the first.
Forgot to hit that go live button.
Good to see you.
Gabrielle, how are you doing today?
Yeah, doing great. Winter is finally coming to an end in Canada, so I'm looking forward to spring and summer.
Yeah, you had to adjust the lighting earlier because it was coming into the window. I love the
Yeah,
sunshine.
yeah. We're currently setting up a new office, so I'm working from my basement today. But with spring around the corner, it's much brighter than usual. Yeah.
Looking forward to it. Do you see that bit of news in the U.S. that the Senate passed something to get rid of daylight savings time?
Yes, I
Kind of
wish
interesting.
it was effective right away, but I read that it's only going to happen in November next year.
Yeah,
Yeah.
still that I welcome that. I
Do
don't
you think,
mind.
do you have an opinion on like staying in daylight savings time versus the regular time?
I just don't want to change. Yeah, I don't know what it was. I don't even know what the bill was. It was one or the other. I don't remember. But yeah.
It's whatever the current time is would be what we would stick with. So it
Okay.
gives us more sunlight at the end of the day.
All right. I don't mind that.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
mind that.
It's funny because I was reading so in our French Canadian newspaper they were covering this, even though it's US. I believe anyway, if the US passes that law, that it's going to be done here just as well. But anyway, so it looks like the person did not fully read the bill, and then at the end they had commentary from someone that suggested, like, okay, so if we don't do it, I would suggest changing one thing. Instead of switching time on Sunday, let's do it on Friday. So I mean, no, another like change, and let's just stick to a time zone and be done with it, and that's it. I am looking forward to it.
Me too.
Yeah. Good.
Well, hey, we got three like news items since last time. Last time we did this, I can't remember now. I think it was the same morning that John Roscoe announced he was stepping down, and John Case is new CEO. And
Mm-hmm.
then, of course, since then I've got my Ukraine flag up in the background. See if I can do that better. A lot going on there, and in the Acumatica community, there are a lot of people affected, and my heart really goes out to both people in Ukraine and in Russia who are affected by this. It's awful, and Acumatica, we know a lot of people, that are affected by this personally, and my thoughts and prayers go out to everyone and their families. I'm just hoping for this to end as soon as possible.
And a
You have
peaceful
any thoughts?
resolution. Yes.
Yeah, and it seems to me, Gabrielle, Acumatica has got to be affected by this. I think it's a question of how much and for how long. But I did see that they just released 2022 R1 yesterday,
Yes.
which I went back and looked. Last year, it was released March 16th today. So they actually released it one day earlier. So that didn't seem to be impacted, but it's got to be an impact. From my standpoint, and actually, I can't remember who this was now. Um, oh yes, Mark Chamberlain. He's here in Ohio, and he attended our little Acumatica user group here in Ohio. We exchanged some emails, and his response was something like, "It doesn't bother me. Acumatica has been so awesome. They basically like they could have a down year as far as I'm concerned, and I'm still a big Acumatica fan. I feel the same way. You know, great product, and maybe competitors catch up a little bit this year. This is like worst case scenario. In my opinion, though, the people and their families come first, and I, to me, it does not diminish my opinion of Acumatica as a product and the future of Acumatica. I think there's going to be a dip, and I'm totally okay with that, personally.
But at the same time, Tim, Acumatica is now a very distributed company. They have engineers worldwide. They have a large presence in Montreal, Sri Lanka now too, since the acquisition by EQT. There's the support team in Columbus, right in your area. I think Acumatica can continue on the same track, and yes, definitely, family comes first, and I definitely know that a lot of people are directly impacted right now. But overall, I'm not worried about the impact on Acumatica. I think that they're going to continue on the same path, and agree with what your friend mentioned. Like Acumatica can have a down year, and I'm good with this too. They've been amazing for the last 10 years, and they have a bright future.
And I agree with you. That's like absolute worst case scenario. I don't think that happens. If this happened 5 years ago, prior to acquisition, you might have bigger concern. But I agree with you. This is a big boy company now, or a big girl company, and yeah, I don't have a concern either. I agree. Now I'm going to share my screen and show a couple other bits of news here. Let's see. Share my browser window. So last month, on February 24th, we did a gathering here in Columbus, Ohio. You can see a picture. There are actually 2 additional people who showed up, so we had 10 total, including Laura, who there was like freezing rain that day, and Laura was going to drive down from Cleveland, but because of the freezing rain, she didn't. So we put her up on the screen there, and it was cool. It was my first in-person work-related thing since the pandemic. I haven't made it to the last 2 summits. I haven't done any face-to-face client stuff. So it was kind of like a milestone for me, getting back to normal. And cool room, and I really liked it. And Gabrielle, we talked a little bit about maybe you do something in Montreal in the near future here. I was talking to Hazen Metro from American Meadows on the podcast recently. He's in Vermont. He said he would totally go up to Montreal. So yeah, maybe we get some in-person user groups going.
Yes, now that travel is easier, they've lifted most of the restrictions, so it would be easy for them to come visit us. And there's a couple other clients in Vermont that I know that would definitely enjoy the user group. So I already responded to Chris Ackett, who's the Acumatica community manager, yesterday, that I am interested in setting up this user group. Who knows, that might also become an Excel user group as well, where we discuss everything related to Excel and ERP. But it's something that would definitely make sense given the history of Acumatica in Montreal, and the large number of clients in the Northeast.
Yeah, I got to tell you, the format we did was not a presentation format. We just went around a circle and all kind of talked about things we'd be interested in discussing. We did that for the first hour. Then we did just like free for all the second couple of hours. And I did not push this, but 2 very common themes: Velixo came up and generic inquiries came up. Not a big surprise, but it was cool to hear that happen organically. And even Cassie, who was not in the picture, she came later. She brought up the new import feature that you're working on.
Generic writeback. Is it Cassie from Alpha?
Yes.
Okay. Cool.
So
it's something I don't want to say too much now, but it's something that's already available to Velixo insiders, who will be releasing that as part of Velixo 7 this spring. I think we should do an entire session on generic writeback, or at least, just usually we tend to use Excel for reporting and analyzing information, but how can we use Excel to dump information back into your ERP? And there are like built-in ways to do that, such as import scenarios. You can use the upload button in many Excel screens. I wish there was copy paste too. In many cases, it would be helpful to just be able to do a copy paste of a data grid in Acumatica, let's say a sales order or a price list. It's not there, but maybe one day. And finally, we have the generic writeback that Cassie mentioned that's coming in Velixo 7.
Yeah, maybe next month. We've been wanting to do Gantt charts, so maybe we do Gantt charts next month, and then in May,
Oh yeah.
Felix 07's ready. Maybe we just do
Uh-huh.
right back, nothing but right back. That'd be cool.
Gantt charts would be huge too. It's not. I mean, it's not rocket science. It's just creative use of Excel and the Acumatic integration. But I'm really looking forward to Gantt charts.
So I got one more news thing. That is yesterday. I thought Gabrielle, you haven't seen this yet, so I'm going to show it to you live here. Yesterday, I was in Indianapolis, kind of spring break trip. And since I was there, I swung by and had lunch with Rob Colley and his wife. They run a Power BI consulting company called P3-Adaptive. And
Okay.
this is Rob's basement.
Nice.
So this is the first time he's teased a picture on social media of it. And it's pretty cool. Like this is just half of it. There's another half to the left of it. And I'm not going to say what he's working on, but it's a pretty major production project that he's doing, and he's got built out a full-on set for it. You can see this is pretty cool. It's a counter with books supporting it, and then like these, you can see the lighting in these little holes. This is actually it's built in his basement, but there's space in between the set and the wall, so you can kind of squeeze around behind it and get access to the lighting.
Okay.
It's just amazing. He put a lot of thought into his set. It's basically a YouTube studio, and it was pretty cool. Pretty cool to see.
Did he build the studio himself, or he got help from someone?
I didn't ask him. I should have asked him that. I
Yeah,
don't know.
I'm looking for help in our new office. I want to have some sort of YouTube studio, but at least a room where I can have a conversation with proper lighting and good acoustics. Our previous office was all concrete, and it always sounded like I was working from an aquarium or a church. So I want something that is more professional. But I know there's people out there probably that can help us.
I'll ping him and let you know.
Yeah, thanks.
And then on that point, I'll just point out this is their website, P3-Adaptive. And if anyone's interested in Power BI and Acumatica, check out their podcast here. And if you scroll down, this may be a couple months ago, when was this? January. You can check out this episode where we talk Power BI and Acumatica.
Nice animation. I love it.
Yeah, he puts a lot of thought into production quality stuff, pretty cool. All right, so last time you did a bunch of Lambda stuff last time, and we're not going to show anything here, but we batted around some ideas about maybe even creating a place centrally to share Lambdas that people build. Do you have any just couple minute thoughts on that?
Yes, I'm really trying to push this for the final release of Felix 07. It was not on the roadmap, but it's one of those last minute features that I think can be extremely impactful, and I believe we can deliver that without too much effort. So if you don't mind, I will bring up the file that we had last time. It was a monthly reconciliation spreadsheet. So let me start screen sharing here. Oh, so you briefly saw that I'm currently installing 2022 R1 on my server. That was my remote desktop connection. I got so excited when you mentioned that 2022 R1 is out that I started the install on my demo server, the same one I'm using for this session. So I'm glad I realized I was making a mistake.
That sounds like a very Gabrielle thing to do. Just get it done.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I ever told you this story, but my first company, I was still in high school, and my father was actually the main sales guy for the product. And I remember driving to clients back when we were doing in-person demos, and I was on the passenger seat coding and compiling code while he was driving to the next appointments. I was churning out features, fixing stuff. And so, yeah, that's my type of thing, like installing an update during that webinar. But thankfully, I'm not doing it. I will continue after this. Yeah. So back to the Lambdas. Last week, we built that spreadsheet that helps you reconcile GL with AP, AR, and inventory. And rather than using a GI formula, long and complex GI, we use the lambdas. And we created 3 lambdas, one for the AP balance that you can see here. So it takes the connection name, just like any Velexo function, the account code, the branch, and the period. We did the same thing for AR balance. And finally, for the inventory balance. So I had that aha moment while working on the spreadsheet, and had the idea to add something to the Acumatica toolbar, some sort of like formula repository that you could search and easily add to any workbook. So my idea is to basically let you search. So let's say you're trying to get the quantity on end. You would open this, type quantity on end. You would see a function that gives you what you need. You click add, and it will not only set up the lambda in your workbook, but it will also take care of adding the generic inquiry to your Acumatica environment.
That's cool.
I think that solves a few challenges, like people. And I actually, Tim, tell us about that query project you worked on a few years ago.
Yeah, I had a similar idea. I called it Query Quarry. Kind of, the idea was, the hardest part a lot of times is getting the data, right? And that's basically a core. You're mining stuff in the earth. And the idea was the same thing. I think a lot of people have this idea, have a central repository. I think it all comes down to, like we've discussed by email, how to curate it. It's not really a technology challenge. I think it's mostly a labor, build it and have someone who's, monitoring it. But I think it'd be really cool if you hooked up the plumbing to deliver that. And then, it's all about building out those examples. And I've been attacking it from a video training course perspective. So I launched my course on building generic inquiries and pivot tables. And now every week I'm releasing a new lesson with an example. And the idea is to build up the content in the video training format. And then I still would like to back into a similar idea of a repository, but it's more of a curated repository of generic inquiries.
Okay. Hey, just for the benefit of our audience, what is the URL of that course? I just want to bring it up.
Yeah, just go up to augforums.com.
Mm-hmm.
And then up on the top, click courses.
Courses.
And that's got the info right there.
Come join my course.
So the idea is, you see there's 1 and 2. There's a foundational knowledge area, 42 lessons with over 5 hours of video training content.
Okay.
And then I got a tips and tricks area, the idea of continuing to contribute ongoing lessons in response to real world situations. So that's my way of kind of backing into, the idea eventually is then have that central repository of generic inquiries.
Okay. And how can I sign up for this course?
If you scroll down a little bit further, you can just click right there on the image to go to.
I see.
I'm working on a better sales page. Right now it's terrible, but there's the course. You can get $300 off though if you attend my monthly webinar.
Okay.
And there is one tomorrow. If you attend the webinar, I provide a coupon code.
Yeah, I saw that.
And
there's a schedule here. Okay. Yeah, and I need to be logged in, obviously.
Yeah, so similar ideas, and I think it'll be cool to see what you guys come up with. I think everyone wants that central repository. Let's attack it from 2 different sides and see what happens.
Yeah, that just reminded me while I was browsing to augforums.com that I received a question. Not me personally, but I mean there was a question on ARM reporting. Did you see it? The one on
the video you did this week on the 12-month. Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Should we mention it?
Sure. You want to pull it up?
Yeah, we'll put it up.
Maybe just, where's the link to the video? There's another central repository, right? Idea. I've seen you dropping stuff on social media. Maybe Velexo does a central repository of tips and tricks videos. I guess it's just your YouTube channel at this point, right?
Yes, youtube.com/c/Velexo. I like to do video responses. I've been using a product called Loom for quick video responses. It's in my toolbar. I click record and the video is ready to be shared after that. I like this product. So rather than write a lengthy response, I do this quick video and I share it with my subscriber right away. So that actually came from a question on AUG forums. So let's go to, where is it? Click here to access forums. And this question here: suppress the 13 period and trailing report. So maybe Tim, do you want to read it?
Do you want me to read the question?
Yeah, you're
I think everyone can read it on the screen.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
but it was skipping the 13th period, right? I think if I remember right, it was skipping one period and moving on to the next. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So unfortunately, in ARM, the only thing you can do is shift by plus or minus one period, or like a fixed number of periods, and there's no way to have conditional conditions in this. So
did you drop this yesterday?
Yeah, I dropped this yesterday.
So I was driving back from Indianapolis, you know, that picture with Rob Colley in his basement. And I just kind of held my phone up and I listened to what you're saying. I had a thought. I think you potentially could do it, but you'd have to do like 13 times 13 and do a bunch of visible expressions.
Oh,
it would be a nightmare. But that was my first thought when I was like, okay, maybe it could be done, but should it be done? I don't know if it should be done in ARM. Yeah.
Okay. That's a crazy idea, but it's
a little too crazy.
Good idea. Yeah. But anyway, I did that. I shared the spreadsheet, and it's right here. And this one, I will log in just to show you what I did. But again, it's just simple Excel formulas. This is what's so good about Excel. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So it goes from 1 to 12. If I uncheck, you'll see.
Well, I think people can watch the video, right? You covered this in the YouTube video.
Exactly. Yeah. I
YouTube channel.
I'm not going to go through the entire solution today. Yeah.
Cool. So at the end of the last month, you had to sign off, and then I played a little pre-recorded video I had done that I was pretty excited about, which is how you can put Power Pivot or Power BI on top of Velixo data. Since when you refresh Velixo, it actually gets cached locally on your machine. I thought it was a really cool idea. And actually, Hazen Metro, who I mentioned earlier, I shared it with him. He thought it was a cool idea. But I think you had some other thoughts. And I don't know if this is really a debate. I think it's pros and cons. Give us some of the cons of the approach from the end of the video last time.
I'm sorry, I have not watched the video.
Oh, this was the one I shared with you.
Yes.
Like before even the session. The idea was you point Power Pivot to the, what's it called?
The SQLite
database from Velixo. And the whole advantage there to me is that when you start to get into larger data sets, it takes a while to refresh over OData. Now, Velixo has solved that problem because you just refresh the stuff that's updated, right? Now, I do also want to mention DataSelf also has a product that handles the refresh for just like Delta refreshes, but they dump it into a SQL database. They have a full-on SQL database, if I understand it right. What I like about the Velixo idea is I don't have to worry about creating a table, columns, the right data types. Velixo handles all that for me. So I can have Velixo do the refresh, and then I can just put Power Pivot on top of that and do my pivot tables without even connecting to any data in a spreadsheet. I really like that idea, but I think your idea was, why not just refresh the data and store it in the spreadsheet and then put the pivot table on top of the spreadsheet, right?
Yes, you can create the pivot table. I felt like it was a more official way of doing things. So you discovered that we're using SQLite and you were able to access it and just figure out the table structure. My concern here is that this is not something that we explicitly advertised. The internal structure could change. The way we extract the data could change as well. And you will still need to do a refresh in Excel before you can refresh Power Query. So I don't know if you ran into any issues with that. I somewhat felt like it was a risky.
Duct tape.
Yeah,
duct tape solution.
Yeah. That's the right term. Yes, but it works. And yes, it's definitely faster than using the Excel Power BI refresh if you can leverage the Velixo Smart Refresh.
Yeah, and to that point, the way you store data could change, and also the ODBC driver I used was like the freeware
Mhm.
SQLite ODBC driver. I still think it was a cool idea, but yeah, as far as relying on it, maybe it's not the most reliable thing. Well, it's not the most reliable thing, right? No, it's not.
But did you get any feedback on that, or emails afterwards on people that were interested in doing something similar?
No, not yet. Not at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you're really into Power BI. Maybe I'm not as excited because I never use Power BI. I can achieve the typical type of spreadsheets that
Yeah.
without using it. It's probably why. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And also because like while we were I was going to say arguing but discussing this topic, like one reason you brought up for using Power BI uh, is the number of rows and the limitation that we have in Excel, and this is absolutely right. Like is it a million?
It's some binary number, right? It's a multiple of 2, and so it's a little bit more than a million, but yeah, it's about a million
Around a
limitation.
million rows, yeah. And honestly, like Velixo or not, Power BI or not, extracting a million rows takes time. And if your goal, let's say, is to take all the sales data and get a total sales by customer and product, I think it's much better to aggregate and summarize this data in Acumatica. Acumatica will just do a SQL query, and the amount of data that you will be transferring through the wire will be much smaller than if you were dumping the entire invoice and AR trend tables.
Yeah, and the way Power BI thinks is give me the detail, give me the most detail. And then Power BI takes care of aggregating on the fly. That's what it's really good at. You just basically do it in formulas, but it handles all the virtual tables and stuff behind the scenes because it's an analytical engine.
Mhm.
It's just different ways of approaching it. It's not, there's pros and cons to both.
Agree.
And I think, for sure where Velixo is a slam dunk is in an accounting department.
Yeah.
Part of my interest in doing this whole Excel talk is, just kind of feeling out with you how much Velixo gets into operations versus Power BI being appropriate. And it's really a situation by situation basis, I think.
Mhm. Do you know if there are any plans to add incremental or delta refresh to the Power BI OData connector? Is that something that you've heard about?
So the challenge, and Hayes and I talked about this a little bit on the last podcast, you can do incremental refresh on the Power BI side. The problem, as I understand it, is with an OData connection specifically, and it's something called query folding. And I haven't actually tried it, but it doesn't look like it's a supported thing.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know roadmap wise if that's something that we'll see eventually.
Mhm. Yeah, Tableau supports it as far as I know.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah, so we'll see, but I think a lot of it has, rather than work on the plumbing of it, I usually think more from the end result side. What makes more sense here? Is this a spreadsheet or is it just a regular pivot table? That to me then kind of dictates how you would approach it from a technology standpoint. So, I was wondering if maybe the rest of the session, I've got some some thoughts on the GI formula. Maybe the rest of this is Tim ask Gabrielle
Mhm.
questions.
Let's do
Um,
this.
I think that part of this Excel talk is, well, not part of it. I think what this is becoming is more of a Velixo focused kind of a thing, which I like. I'm going to share my screen here, and let's see. I did this ahead of time and jotted down some notes, so I'm just going to kind of walk through some things and get your thoughts. First of all, is that big enough?
You could zoom
Maybe
in your
zoom in.
spreadsheet a bit. Yeah.
All right, so the whole dynamic array formula stuff that we've talked about several times now. For you, Gabrielle, you've been in it for a lot longer because of the Office Insider thing. For me, it's still very new. And this GI formula in Velixo is a dynamic array formula, as I understand it.
Correct. Yes.
And I'd like to kind of dig into this scenario a little bit more. I know we've been doing it on previous episodes, but I want to shine the spotlight on it a little bit more here.
But by the way, behind the scenes, we just returned an array. The way Excel handles it will depend on your Excel version. If you are on Excel 365, you will get a dynamic array. If you are on an older version, like even Excel 2010, you will get what is called a CSE array. And CSE stands for Control Center. This is how, we also call them legacy arrays because they're part of the older versions, but it's still an array in older versions of Excel.
Okay.
Okay, you just lose all the benefits of dynamic arrays, which is the automatic resizing, the spill ranges, and the ability to annotate any reference with hash or pound to reference the entire range.
I think so many people are on Office 365 now that that's less and less of an issue. But yeah, that's a good point. The various versions of Excel.
Honestly, I had never heard of array functions before Microsoft introduced dynamic arrays. So I don't know if anyone was using that. It was very cumbersome and limited.
Yeah, the cumbersome is being polite, I think.
Right?
So I'm just writing a formula here where I'm going to get from my Velixo formula from the invoice lines generic inquiry. And then I'm going to pull in some specific columns. I'm going to get invoice, line, customer, salesperson, and net sales, the dollar amount.
Okay.
I hit enter there. Happen. There we go. Oh, maybe I don't need a space there.
If you want, you can also.
I do wrong here. I just did this right before our session. So what did I do wrong?
You should see a list of GIs. If you leave the argument blank, usually it shows you best matches. Oh, invoice lines. Perfect.
Oh, I didn't know about that. So tell me about that. So I can do GI. See.
Yeah, it's not. We're not seeing it right now. I don't know if it's because of screen sharing. This is something we noticed in the past. I'm not seeing the function arguments window that is usually displayed.
Okay, let me try this. I just shared my Excel window, so let me try stopping and going back and sharing my entire screen.
Were you seeing it on your end?
You mean the IntelliSense, right?
IntelliSense, yes.
Yes, I was seeing it.
Okay.
Go back here. How about now?
Now I just see your web browser.
Let me try one more time. How about now?
We see it, yes.
Okay.
Perfect. So yeah.
Oh, so here's the best match down here.
Yeah. So just type, let's say, invoice.
So I did. Do I have to do anything?
Invoice. Yeah, you can see invoice lines. It's in the other possible values, so you can see the exact name. If you want the best match, you just press F2. There's no hyperlink at this point on the other matches.
So I type invoices lines.
Yes. And you can see best match. Just press F2 and wait a second, and it will fix it.
Let me try that again.
Yeah, and you're missing the parentheses and connection now.
F2. One more time here. There we go. It automatically picked. Okay, cool. I didn't know about that. Okay. All right, so I've got one that's returning some columns. And next thing I wanted to do is I just wanted to get a list of the customers, right? So here's where I learned this from one of your videos that you've been posting on LinkedIn, where you can then reference just a specific column from this dynamic array. So, you know, quick recap, like if I type in here, I get the spill. That's because the dynamic array, I can see over here, the dotted blue lines. it wants to spill over this range. I could scroll all the way down to row 13, 312. You can see the dotted blue line. That's the space it wants to take up. If there's anything in the way, I get the spill. So I just need to clear stuff out of the way, and it fills it down. So this whole thing, this grays out. Like if I try to, I can see it, but it's grayed out. If I click an A1, then I can actually type in here. So what's nice is I don't have to copy formulas down, right? It's just A1. So as you showed in your LinkedIn video, I can use index to reference this dynamic array formula. So I just put in A1, and the trick is I have to put a hash after it. It now knows to reference the entire thing. And then I can do comma, comma, and I can put in the specific column number that I want, which is column 3 for customer in this case, and close it out like that. Now, at this point, I got a question for you. Have you experimented with referencing a column name instead of a number?
I have not, but it's not a scenario that is supported.
Okay.
You might have seen I replied to a post from a Microsoft program manager, and I gave some suggestions on dynamic arrays. I would like to be able to reference columns by name and also have a simpler syntax when we want column tree. It's just a bit like long or verbose. This is what I find with index.
Okay. Yeah, and as I say that, another thing I've been kind of experimenting with, tell me what you think about this. In order to control the column names, like net sales, I don't like it, especially it doesn't have a space.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, those generic inquiry names are usually more technical than I want, and I want to control the display. So what I've been finding is it's maybe better to just put your column headings on top. Let me just do that. And I just call it amount, and then use the argument in here, include header set to false. So that way my header is kind of separate from my dynamic array formula. You have any thoughts on that?
Yes, this is usually what I will do, and it's especially important if you then intend to get a unique list of customers. So in column G, I assume you might want to get unique added there too.
That's exactly where I'm going with that. Yep.
Yes. So if you have the headers there, you would see a customer called customer too.
Right. So good. Yeah, I like that too. And then I can do separate formatting on this, row up here. I could maybe put some borders around it, and maybe put a background, make it bold, that kind of thing. Yes, so that was actually the next step I wanted to go to. So let's say I just want a unique list of customers. So I've now fed it only the customer column, but I've got repeating customers, right? So then I can use, I believe this is also a dynamic array formula. I can just call it unique, and then I get back my list of customers.
Yay.
So then if we continue our formatting, continue further. So then this is the other cool thing about it, is we can then start doing calculations. Now here's where I'm interested to push the limits of what we can do here versus what I really need to go to a Power BI measure for. I know Power BI measures are going to be more robust, but I'm just curious how far we can go with calculations here. So let's do another amount one, and here let's do same thing. We'll do index on my A1 hash, and we'll get the customers again.
It's A2 now because you added the other row.
All right, so I don't know if you tried doing a sum if.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I was going to do next.
Yeah.
It looks like that works just fine. Get my column heading. So if I want to do a sum if, I'm all set up for this. My range is customers. My criteria is whatever's to the
No,
left.
the range that you want to sum would be column 5, E, not
Yeah,
column.
that'll be my last argument, right?
No, it's the range you want to sum that comes first. Oh, I'm sorry. This is not sum if S. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just doing one argument, the simpler one.
Yes. Okay. I always use sum if S. That's why. And
Actually, that's a
then
good idea. Probably should have done that. I'm going to stick with the example that I've got, though. So in this context, it's what are you going to match against? That's the first argument. Then what are you going to, so the match would be like the whole list of things, the whole list of customers. And then I can reference another dynamic array formula, G2,
yes,
which is just going to look for each row, what's next to it. Then the sum range will be what am I actually going to add up? So I'll be column 5.
Column 4. That 5, yeah. Woo!
That's pretty cool. I then am able to sum up a bunch of numbers for the customers. Now, one thing I noticed, and here's where I might want a pivot table for this. The first thing I want to do is sort this in descending order on the amount.
By amount.
And I can do that, but the problem is, I'll just go ahead and do it. I wrap this now in sort.
No.
Descending. It sorts it, but this list didn't change. So now these numbers are completely mismatched, with the customers, right?
Yes. Yes.
So that might be a scenario where a pivot table is better. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on that?
Pivot table would be simple, but you can still achieve it if you use a combination of the collate function, the transpose function, and sort again.
Basically, build this first and then build this off of this.
You
right?
can you can join both tables together into one table using collate, one dynamic array, and then you sort the entire dynamic array on column 2.
Oh, let's do that. Let's do that.
Okay.
Well, how about this? Let's just do the part where it's 2.
Okay, this one, yeah, 2 columns.
Get rid of that. So right now it's 2. So let's say I want to make it one table.
Yes.
You said collate?
Yeah, it's try collate, but you'll see that we have a challenge. But there's a workaround that my colleague Pavel found. Collate.
So I'm gonna feed it 2. So let me copy and paste here. So I was like building one step at a time.
No, you need
that.
you could feed it the arrays too, but let's keep the intermediary array in G and H. So okay, if you want to do it this way.
I see what you mean. Okay, so reference what I already have here. Okay,
collate G2 and H2.
G2
hash and H2 hash. Yes.
And H2 like that.
Yes. You'll see that it does not quite give you the result that you want. So scroll down. You'll see what happened.
Okay.
So it's appending. What you can do though, if you do transpose on G2 and transpose on H2, and then transpose the result back.
Like this?
Yes, transpose, and then transpose the result of collate.
Whoa.
Yeah.
My brain is frying right now.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's an opportunity for a lambda function that makes that simpler.
Yes, or we create a new collate function that supports scenarios like that. I think
I like that.
Yeah, collate is actually a function that we built because Excel does not include anything similar. I did find like a very, very crazy solution to collate without the collate function because other people using the dynamic arrays have stumbled on the same requirement. But I think collate is much simpler. You can also collate tables of different sizes. You can add, and this is something I like doing. Let's say you want to create a dropdown to filter by customer. Okay, so you already have the list of unique clients that you built, but you want to add like the first item, you want it to be any or every customer. So I will do full collate every, comma, and then the dynamic array, and you will add every, and I put brackets so that it's the first one in the list.
And that'd be the append scenario, the normal collate scenario.
Yeah, the normal collate. Yeah, the double transpose with collate is not as elegant, but as you said, a lambda could do it.
So I haven't used collate. Is that a Velixo or that's a regular Excel?
In this function.
It's Velixo. Boy, I haven't experimented with these at all. Okay. Yeah, we talked about text split, which is like a companion to text join. Oh, interesting. Okay, this is cool. All right, so then how would I sort by the second column?
Okay, so we can add the sort right here. So do sort of this and comma. Sort index is 2, and sort order is descending. Close.
Very cool. Okay, I like that.
So obviously, as you already figured out, instead of having G2 and H2, you could have the other formulas in there if you don't want to use the intermediate tables.
Yeah. And actually that well, here, let me do it that way. So I'm just going to keep building like one at a time here. Let's see.
You'll just get to a point where the formula is so complex that you will want to break it down again.
Well, I had a performance question on that. So let's see.
It's fast.
I needed to reference. I probably need to just get in the habit of doing absolute references on these since they're not going to be copied down anyways. Okay, so basically I need to go back and take these and put them in place of G2 and H2, right? What you're thinking? You're thinking something else.
That's not going to work because you're doing sum if on the other one. No, you need to have the array. So I was rather like go to column J.
Hold on, I want to test that theory.
Okay.
You think that's going to break? Oh yeah, because it's not.
It's the sum if that will be the issue.
Let's just see the error.
My brain is frying already.
Well, it worked. I don't know why. But it worked. Oh, it's still referencing G2. That's why. Yeah, so I didn't completely eliminate G and H.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry. Go ahead with what you were going to suggest.
No, I don't have any suggestion. I think you need to have the temporary table with the raw data, and then you sort it. Yeah.
So I'm good with that. Let's the next part I was curious about was the GI. Let's kind of pair it back to the GI function itself. So let me go get. First, I want to grab just like a random list of customers. Paste that in here. And then I'm going to do a sum if. And I really should do the sum if s, but I'm just going to use this for now. Going back to the start, so I'm not using the G and the H or any of the intermediate stuff. I'm back to this again. Except now, instead of referencing what I'm going to match on, instead of making that a dynamic array formula, I'm just going to say I want it to match on this.
Yeah, but you could also do P2. You could actually select the entire range. This is also an array, and Excel will process it as such. So this way you will not have to copy the formula down.
Well, in this case, I just wanted to get a list of random customers. So I think it would have to be individual cells.
But I meant, for example, so let's finish this one. Let's finish what you have in Q2. You will understand my idea after.
All right, so let me finish this out. Is this going to be the same thing as this one? It'll be column 5.
It's A2, not A1.
I'm going off of my notes. That's why. Thank you.
Okay. So right now you
So,
need to copy this down.
right.
If you put P2 column P8 instead, so you enter a range of cells, P2 column, or is it semicolon?
Oh, so you think it'll let me do this, huh?
Yeah, absolutely, it will.
Oh, that's cool. Now I've got a dynamic. I didn't think about that. Now I've got a dynamic array result. Okay.
Yeah.
So does that change? Huh. So I like that. Now let me go back to the original way I was going to do it
Okay.
and see, like, because I think there's probably still reasons why this would happen. Maybe not in this scenario. All right. So right now I did a sum if. Now here's where, from a Power BI perspective, I don't like that I'm referencing data in an Excel spreadsheet. One, here's, I think, a pro of a pivot. I forget Power BI. Let's just call it a pivot table approach. I think a pro of a pivot table approach is every pivot table can be independently referencing the data source and not referencing each other. Because I think where Excel can get messy is when you do this, and then you do something else that depends on this, and something else that depends on that. And you've got all these interrelationships. And so if I change something right here, I don't even realize that I changed stuff over here. It can also be a pro, that approach, but it can be a con, right? So the scenario I was going to then do as the next step is, let me take this back to this way, copy it down. So in this way, I'm referencing the data that I've already dumped in A2, right? What if I wanted to go back to the source for each one of these? So what I can do is I could take, I'm just going to write from scratch. I could do right next to it, I could do a sum. I asked you about this once a while ago, so I don't know if you remember this. I don't know if you ever see a valid reason to do it this way. I'm curious. Let's see. I'm going to sum up and reference the GI formula again. I know that Velixo's got a nice filter function, but just to put everything in one place, I'm going to build the filter manually.
What you're doing now, Tim, is exactly how we built the AR AP inventory balance.
Oh, really?
Yes, we are summing up the results of a GI. Yes.
Let's see. I forget my last. Oh yeah, I just want to grab net sales. But you know what? Let me build it this way. So for understanding's sake, let me build the inside first. Because I think I like this technique, but I do have a performance question on it.
Yes.
So let's just go here and let's do net sales. All right, so I've just grabbed one column. So basically I'm doing the same thing as we did back in the beginning, but I'm just getting one column back, this column, instead of all five, right? So what's cool about just returning one column, I should make sure to get rid of the header as well.
You can still do some if you have the header, by the way. Excel will ignore it.
It will? Okay.
Yeah.
But what's cool is that I can just wrap this in a sum and get the total. I think that's cool.
Yeah.
But then what I was doing with my sum, my filter, was now instead of just getting a grand total, I want to get a total just for this customer. So then I can go back in here and I can do my filter. This is like an O data filter, which is why it kind of looks ugly. I want to get a total just for this customer. I have to put single quotes around it. I've got that messy thing.
Is it customer or customer name? Okay, it works.
And now I should be able to paste this down. Let's find out. You see, I'm getting the same results, but my well, I'm not getting the last one. I'm not sure what happened there. Maybe because of this.
O'Neill's, yeah.
Because of the.
If you were using GI filter, it would properly escape the the single quote. It's actually, you picked a very
Gotcha.
good example of why you shouldn't.
That did come up well.
Yeah.
I'm glad that happened. So the apostrophe, is bad.
We can fix it later. That will be icing on the cake. But let's discuss performance.
Yes. So what I like about this is that this is independent, right? I'm just actually I am referencing S2, but otherwise I can do something else and break everything else in my workbook, but this is still going to go back to the Velixo source. My question then is that worse performance if I had, hundreds and hundreds of rows? Is Velixo having to go back to Acumatica as a source on the refresh, or is there any other downside to this method?
But by default, it will go back to the source because the filter is different. There's a setting, though, that you can change for every GI that you have in your workbook. So let's take a look at the performance. It's very visible in this case. Go to the Acumatica toolbar and hit refresh. You will see that they load sequentially. You see them. It's still reasonably quick, but it's hitting Acumatica for every single GI request. So if you have like 10, that's fine. Like maybe 30, 500 would be an issue. What you can do, however, is go to the options.
Now, I did notice as it was happening, it looks like these happen first, and then Velixo goes back and refreshes the main data set, or maybe just was taking longer.
It's Excel. It's the Excel calculation algorithm. It's not something I control, but yes, we are clearly going back to Excel. Whichever gets returned first will be displayed first by Excel.
Got it.
If you do it a second time, it might be in a different order. Try it just for fun.
Yep. It started from the top this time. So it's just kind of whoever's faster, it just seems like, right?
Yes.
So there's an option.
Yes. Go to the options button. Pick your invoice lines GI, double click on it, or just click the hamburger icon. Yeah. Check this always load the entire GI and filter locally box. Yeah. Click OK.
Oh, that's it. I don't even have to mess with these. This
is
for the smart refresh. Is that where I use this?
Yes, correct. Yes.
Okay.
We could set up smart refresh and discuss that after if you want. But now click OK and try it again.
I like checkboxes. So it's not coming in as the refresh is happening. It's waiting. So that's cool. So it refreshed the base, and then it did this on top of it.
Yes. Okay. So at this point, you could have hundreds of entries, and it would only hit Acumatica once to get the invoice line GI. The drawback, though, let's say you have 1 billion rows in this GI, it's going to load 1 billion rows and then work with that locally. So it's always a trade-off. If it's a if it's a reasonably small data set and you want to do multiple queries on it, this is great. If it's a large data set, it might be better to bring a pre-filtered versions. Let's say the current financial year, and then filter by client locally.
And that comes back to your point earlier about whether you aggregate on the side of Acumatica and bring less data back, or whether you really want to bring all the detail back. It depends on the situation. I agree.
Yes. It's not something that we can decide on behalf of the user. You have to make this decision as a consultant. We simply picked what we felt was the best default setting, and the best default setting is to process the filtering on the server side, because usually people will have GI as tables and they will be filtering by something. I don't see scenarios like the one you just showed me often, because people they will think of using some if before they think of having multiple GIs. Yeah.
Do you have another 5 minutes?
Yes, I do.
Because I just thought of something else. Let me go back to that.
Smart refresh would be the next thing to do to boost the refresh performance.
Yeah, it looks like we have a way to do that. I have to figure out the keys, but so we know we can do it.
Okay.
But what I'm curious about then, one thing I don't like about the dynamic array formulas, well, I should say this method. So I didn't know I could do this. I like this, that I could just put P2 to P7 and it automatically fills down. I always get nervous though when I see cell ranges, because I add something to it and sometimes it automatically grows, sometimes it doesn't. Depends on the situation.
It will not grow if you add another client here.
Yeah, so I mean, let's try that. So let's say I've got widget connection. I'm just going to type it. Widget connection. Yeah, this is still referencing P2 to P7. So my thought on this is, what if I used a table? Have you ever tried that?
You cannot use dynamic array functions in data tables.
So let's see what error we get. I'm curious. And this is my amount. If I drop this same thing in here.
Well, you would need to do P2 in this case instead of the range. But try it. You'll see that this one fails.
I think what I can do is I would do table 2 and I would do the customer column.
Yeah, but that will work.
Does it spill? Aha, I see. So that's the challenge. So I do like tables, but yeah, I can't use dynamic array formulas with tables.
Wait, but here, that should still work. Like where you have customer, can you click P13 instead? Just see what happens.
Click here.
No, go to your modify your formula, and then delete customer, and then simply click on P13, because there's no dynamic array result. Yeah, a customer. Now it works.
I wonder. Oh, okay. So at customer. Okay, good. It does work.
Yes, but you cannot use the GI function. You cannot use unique or sort or anything that returns an array. Here it works fine because SUMIF ultimately returns a single value.
Right. So, okay. So there's a reason then not to do this and to do this method. To do it. Okay. Yeah. You know, as you said, this is not all about one right answer, right? It's all dependent on the situation. The more tools you have in your tool belt, the better equipped you are to decide.
And it's very important to understand all the trade-offs. You were mentioning earlier about something that is messy with spreadsheet, and it's the case where you have one table and then it's referenced by other tables, other sheets, and you have this complex model. But as you know, you can get into the same situation with Power BI if you're not careful. If you create a data in any database, if your data model is a mess and you don't understand it, it will grow and become something that is very hard to manage and maintain. So you need to make these decisions carefully when you design things. I agree with you. I don't like these complex intertwined GI formulas with sorts and temporary tables. I try to avoid these. I would do a pivot table, for example, in this case, if I need it.
And then, you know, what I do like about dynamic array formulas is that you don't have to learn the DAX language that you have to learn with Power BI. I do like that. Now I'm just using regular, familiar Excel skills. I do like that.
Yeah.
So yeah. Pros and cons.
Pros and cons. Correct. Yes.
But this table, this is cool. I didn't realize this. So the advantage then should be, let's test it. I can just type in a customer. Yeah. And boom, the calculation automatically grows.
And it's instant. Yeah. You could also use GI in there instead of doing SUMIF. That would also work. The sum of GI, like you have in column U.
Yes. Yeah. We could go back to the source. Sure. Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And to your point here, let's go ahead and fix this. So let's make this look a little prettier. SUMIF S. And the reason we like this is because I can do one condition like I'm doing now, or I could do multiple conditions. It doesn't matter. So here I can keep adding a second and a third. And if I always use SUMIF S, I'm always set up for another condition.
Yes.
So that's good.
SUMIF S, and I don't know if it's only with SUMIF S, but you can also do ranges. So you could do greater than, less than for dates.
Yeah, I agree. It's better just use that. Forget SUMIF.
Yeah.
Then I also wanted to try a total. Here, let's try amount percentage. So I could wind up doing two. One, I could do like a percentage of this group of customers, and another one I could do a percentage of the total. And I want to try the total first. So like if I do this with the same idea of going back to the source, let's just say I do a sum of the entire sales column.
Can I suggest a simpler way, Tim?
Sure.
So just add a total at Q19. I think there's a way to have, click auto sum in the
Yeah,
total.
so that would work for my second one, but yeah, let's do both. So let's do total. And I want to sum, you mean like this, right?
Yes, and then in R13, you just do Q13 divided by Q19.
Yeah, so that would be my second one. This is actually my total, because what this should be doing is I'm going back and referencing the entire data set.
Mm-hmm.
So these percentages do not total up to 100%, right?
Oh, you're right. It's
But
based.
your situation is
Oh,
like
you're
my partial,
sorry. I
my
missed this completely. Yeah.
sub. I don't know what to call these. I'm terrible at names, but yes, I like your point for this.
I just felt like this function was becoming unreadable.
So now I can reference the total. And now I have something that should sum up to 100%.
Yeah. And you could remove that index, blah, 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 sum if, and just reference Q13 directly.
Yeah. Yeah. At this point, you might as well, right? And I'm more comfortable doing that when I'm within a table. What I don't like or what I get nervous about is individual cell references, right? But now, yeah, to your point, this is just well, I'm not going to do it, but this is just the at like we did here. It's the at amount instead of the at customer. But I like that better because it's not an individual cell reference. So it automatically copies down when the table grows. I like that. That's cool. Yeah, I'd like to, not anymore today, but that's something I'm gonna be keeping in mind and playing with is pushing the limits. We just did a simple calculation that went across rows, but then we also looked at a total. But it'd be interesting to start getting into sort of like your same month sales example, right? Where you're starting to look at subsets across rows and doing that with dynamic array formulas. And how far can we take that before we feel like, this is better suited for measures in Power BI? Well, cool. Thanks for going over. And any other final thoughts before we wrap it up today?
Yes, I just want to remind our audience to leave their questions at 833 Excel Talk. We need fresh new questions for the coming episodes. So next month, I think, Tim, you said we will be covering Gantt charts with Excel. Is that right?
Yeah, we've had a voicemail that we've been sitting on asking about Gantt charts. We're thinking to do a whole session next month on Gantt charts, right?
Yeah, that deserves an entire session, but definitely we should get a few questions lined up for the episode after that.
So how about I'll reach out to Cassie because I know she had questions on that generic import. Maybe we make that our May session.
Yes, absolutely. That works.
All right. Sounds good.
Yeah.
Well, hey, thanks again for the time today. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Take care.